Welcome to the Call to Defend podcast, where we're going to offer you our 2 cents. I'm Caleb Elliott, and this is Josh Davis. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing fine. We went through
a few intros, and none of them were PG.
None of them were. Some of them were really funny, but some of them were not even on topic. Or some of them were just a little too out there.
Yeah, a little bit.
But anyways, it feels like it's been a minute.
Well, it's only been, we only missed 1 week, but
it just feels
like that way.
Yeah. And what is it? We just started Parables? My brain is lost at this point.
we have 1 episode of Parables in the books.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We discussed the
3
points.
losts. Yeah. We talked about the lost coin, lost son, and the lost sheep. And so we're going to look at a few more simple 3-point. Where I organized them, I think, based on what I was looking to do and what you were looking to do. I think I found a good mixture of the two, where we're going to follow format, but we're going to organize them so we close we can to like the subject matter. And I think our last 3-point is going to segue us into complex 3-point.
Yeah. Okay.
And then that's going to be where the harder identification comes in. And then we'll have 2-point and a couple other ones.
Cool.
And then that, like, if I went through it, I was like, wow, we're gonna cruise. I was like, we're gonna take a while, but we're also gonna cruise this. But it's not gonna be like as long as mountains. We're like 13 episodes long. We're probably gonna be done like maybe by 10.
Okay.
Maybe before then. Because we've been organizing them to like 2 to 3 an episode.
Yeah. Especially
if they're like related
and
the same form. So we're probably gonna get through these kind of quickly, which is kind of nice because really at least with a simple 3-point, the harder ones to understand, Jesus does you a solid and explains them later. And the ones that are not hard to understand, they're meant to be like the Pharisee or the Jew or the disciple. They pick up on it like the second he starts speaking, like, you're talking about me.
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to be picked up super quick. And that's kind of what's nice with looking at the format structure, because you're like with the lost sheep and the lost coin, there's a sense where he's saying, wouldn't you go do this? Therefore, he's putting them in the position of the monarch figure. Right. But then with the lost son, he puts himself there and says, you're actually the second. You're the son.
Yeah,
the other son. And therefore, you're kind of looking back in the other two. We're like, wait, Jesus is the one who's actually doing the monarch stuff, whereas they're not doing that.
Like he went to say monarchical there instead.
I know. We talked so much about the Trinity that it just kind of gets stuck in my head. But then again, even then, they kind of call it monarchical structure sometimes, depending on who you talk to. But I think we're going to do 2 today. That in theme, in terms of like the focus of characters are related, but there's still some differences in the actual meaning. So it'll be a good broad range of discussion, I think. So we're going to look at 2 today, I think, based on what we talked about, both similar in its characters, different a little bit in their meanings and purposes. So I think it'll give us a good little range. Whereas last time, I think it was good to see all 3 of them together because it was easier, but they were like all the same kind of point.
Right.
But today we're gonna get like 2 different points probably out of this, which would be fun. And so we're gonna look at the parable of the debtors in Luke, and then we'll look at the faithful and unfaithful servants in Matthew, which also has a parallel version in Luke, which there's a slight different detail, which is really interesting, but I'll save that for when we get there.
All righty.
So we're going to go to Luke 7, and we're going to shoot over to, the parable starts in verse 41. We'll back up to verse 36 for some more context, because that's, like I said, there's some parables that are meant to be a little difficult, and then Jesus explains them, and there's some where it's like the context around it tells you this is really what the parable's about. Yeah. So in verse 36, one of the Pharisees asked Jesus to eat with him, and he went into the Pharisee's house and took his place at the table. And a woman in the city who was a sinner, having learned that he was eating in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster jar of ointment. She stood behind him at his feet, weeping, and began to bathe his feet with her tears and to dry them with her hair. Then she continued kissing his feet and anointed them with the ointment. Now when the Pharisee who had invited him saw it, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would have known who and what kind of woman this is who is touching him, that she is a sinner. Jesus spoke up and said to him, Simon, I have something to say to you. which is just
That is not how you want that conversation to start.
Jesus, especially when you know that Jesus is the guy who was like, you guys were thinking to yourself. He's like, I hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
They're like, what? What are you saying? But I'll read through the parable here to kind of get through it, and then we'll kind of go back and reflect.
Hang on, just finishing verse 40.
Yeah.
And then he says, teacher, he said, say it. Boy, you know good and well what you were thinking. Like that two-faced nature. It's so human. It's so human.
But yeah, right at that point, teacher, he replied, speak. And then Jesus gives us the parable. A certain creditor had 2 debtors. One owed 500 denarii and the other 50. When they could not pay, he canceled the debt for both of them. Now, which of them will love him more? Because that's basically the parable right there.
Yeah.
Simon then answers, I suppose the one for whom he canceled the greater debt. And Jesus said to him, you have judged rightly. Then turning to the woman, he said, Simon, do you see this woman? I entered your house. You gave me no water for my feet, but she has bathed my feet with her tears and dried them with her hair. You gave me no kiss, but from the time I came in, she has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she has anointed my feet with ointment. Therefore, I tell you, her sins, which were many, have been forgiven, and she has shown great love. But the one to whom little is forgiven loves little. Then he said to her, your sins are forgiven. But those who were at the table with him began to say among themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? And he said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. So that's the entire context.
Yeah.
And the parable. Very short parable. It's a simple 3-point. And so a simple 3-point contains monarchic figure, ties the characters together, 2 subordinate characters.
Yeah.
There's a parable with me later we're going to see that I remember I told you, were like, I forgot that was even a parable because like a really short one. And I was like, is that a simple 3-point? I was like, it was a weird simple 3-point. We'll save that one though. I just wanted to say that it's interesting that it doesn't always mean that the 2 subordinate characters are necessarily like in opposition to each other.
Yeah.
But they're like 2 different responses.
Yeah, they usually contrast.
In some way, or they can be the same audience, as we're going to see with the next one. But it's an audience based on what they respond, whether they're contrasting ideas, or it's just 2 ideas, but they're not even necessarily against each other. And that's where we get to that later one, which is really cool because it's like an inverted. But anyways, this one. So we have the one who is owed money, and then the 2 who owe money.
Mm-hmm.
One who owes much, one who owes little. And so it's pretty easy to see that Jesus is saying, I'm the guy that's owed, effectively at this point, because I'm the one doing the forgiving. You're the one who owes little. She owes much. Even by your own standard, she owes much. And so right there, we have Pharisees, one who owes 50, she owes 500. And the question is, who's going to love based on what has been forgiven them? And Simon goes, well, I guess the one who owes much. It's like, yeah, you're right. So that would mean then the other one is probably not going to love as much. And that's just an interesting thought. I mean, you see where it's true, but it's also like an interesting thought, especially we're just kind of thinking of like, because we obviously as Christians, we kind of want to sometimes see how it applies to ourselves. And there's a layer of which you can say like, no, I've seen people who have gone through a lot of stuff and you see, wow, their change is wildly crazy.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And there's times where you're like, I would speak for myself. I'm like, I haven't gone through that wild crazy.
No. But there's something to be said about that, which is like, yes, you haven't gone through that wild crazy, but you've still been forgiven much.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You have still been forgiven far more than you deserve.
I think
you don't deserve to be forgiven at all.
The key detail was that they both couldn't pay it anymore.
Right.
As you were just saying, like, it's beyond what you can pay.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
yeah,
I forgave it.
Well, yeah, but we have a tendency in the church to say that, I just have one of those boring testimonies.
Oh, I've spoken against that so
many
times.
It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts because, firstly, how dare you? Right? How dare you say to God, the life you gave me is boring. Mm-hmm. It's not as interesting. I don't like it as much as that guy's life. It's like, firstly, do you know the hell that person went through to get where they are now? You wouldn't want to trade places with them.
I think of like, who was it? I forgot his name, but he's an apologist who does a lot with like speaking regarding like sexual attraction and stuff. He's I blink on his name right now, but he's huge in this area. But he went through struggling with that to also dealing drugs to being arrested, and his mother was fasted like once, twice a week for years
Yeah.
until he repented. And like when he turned around, I was like, pff.
Right.
I was like, but he was like that struggle, like he had lost so much.
Mhm.
He's gone through all this, like that going through, as you were just saying, like, do you really want that?
Yeah, no, I am very grateful to God, and I do not thank him enough for the fact that I've had a boring testimony, right? I grew up in the church. I, of course, had my struggles. Every single person does, right? But I grew up rather comfortably and rather blessed, right? God gave me amazing parents. He gave me a roof over my head. He gave me food consistently on the table. And then I went through a period of my life where that wasn't the case. I had a roof over my head, but I did not have food consistently on that table.
Mhm.
And that's when it kind of opened my eyes to that perspective of, because I had used the boring testimony line before. I was like, I got a boring testimony. And then God kind of opened my eyes to that period of like, you really don't want what you consider to be an exciting testimony. You
Yeah.
really don't want that. It's miserable.
Well, praise God that you got to have parents who shared the
Right.
gospel with you,
Absolutely.
and praise God that He worked through that for you to hear the gospel.
Yeah.
And but I think it's just it's an interesting perspective. Whereas like again, we don't want to allegorize too much where we're like making everything like even the Pharisees like this
Yeah.
like this is an actual event
Mhm.
still happening, and he's calling the Pharisees like, you. Let's be honest here. She's gonna love a whole lot right now. You called her a sinner. She is.
Yeah.
But look what she's doing. She's acting in love.
Right.
She's acting in love because she's washing with the feet with her tears.
Yeah.
That's a lot of water. Then drying it with her hair. That's a huge amount of humility right now.
Yep.
So you're taking this one as like your part of your glory for a woman is her hair in that culture. One reason why they cover it up, and also because it's relation to sexual stuff. And so she's like using her entire, and then she's bringing ointment to anoint his feet,
Yeah.
which you typically anoint, especially in Jewish, like you anoint people like kings and prophets, and and like he's been
She
anointed.
understood the assignment.
She understood the assignment very well. And then he's pointing saying, you didn't do these things.
Yeah.
Why are you, she owes so much. Why shouldn't you be happy right now that she's like doing this? Just because you didn't have to go through it?
Yeah. No, and it's a beautiful depiction of truly seeking grace, right? This is a conversation I had recently, where there was somewhat of a disagreement on the role of action
Mm.
in salvation, right? And so I stressed very importantly, it is God's grace that saves you, but you do have some role to play,
Mhm.
right? You have to actually seek after God, right? God is not just going to relentlessly come after you if you don't want him to.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you are pushing him away, if you are trying to get away from him, right? If you are acting proudly as the Pharisee is here, thinking yourself above your station, then God's not going to come to rescue you because you don't want to be rescued.
Mm.
Okay, fine. You don't have to be. But to have the humility to understand that in everything that I have gone through, I'm still unworthy, right? Because this woman obviously suffered greatly, greatly.
The fact that she's weeping
Right.
that much to be washing
Right.
with her tears. There's a layer of suffering, also a layer of realization
Mhm.
of that the Pharisee is right. She is
Yeah.
sinner. She's like, I'm fully aware. You're not telling me anything I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's why, we talked about last time the Jesus sitting at the banquet, right? Eating with tax collectors and sinners. And the Pharisees, judging. And Jesus says, these are the sick. We like to joke, oh, he just called them scum. They're probably sitting there going like, he's not wrong, right? Like we know who we are. We have no misgivings about that.
Yeah.
And so for the woman to have such humility and to have such recognition is a beautiful testimony, and it explains very well what Jesus means, right? That because she has gone through so much already and has done so many evil things, she is all the more glad to be forgiven from it, right? The Pharisee should be rejoicing for her, but he should also be rejoicing for himself, right? Salvation has come even unto him, lowly, unworthy him. Right. So
a bet that he also cannot pay, even if it wasn't as much.
Right.
Which kind of gets into the idea is like, because she is being forgiven sins. Let's remember the fact that at the end it says that did they question like, who is this that can forgive sins? It's like there's an emphasis there on like part of the forgiveness is that. And there's a layer which you can say, sure, like all sin has put us in debt. All sin separates us. All sin leads to death. Sure, you can say there definitely are sins that are, in a sense, worse than others because of the things that they do, like killing murdering someone versus stealing. It doesn't mean like, oh, therefore you should choose between which one's better. It's like they're both wrong. You might not be in as much debt in that sense.
Yeah.
But you should recognize, like, first off, don't get in the high horse thinking, oh, you're not as bad as they are. You still owe.
Right.
But also,
it's like
be thankful that even though they in a sense are worse than you, in a sense, be thankful that they're coming back. That's a radical change of heart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like somebody being in prison for tax evasion, condemning somebody in prison for murder. It's like, guys,
you're both in
prison.
Like, well, she belongs. It's like, you do too. You're also 50 denarii short.
Yeah.
Which is like a day's wage at that point. Convert that to American dollars just because that's our context and multiply that by 500.
Yeah.
That's like years worth of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot to owe. And anyways, there was another point. I don't know if you remember this. I think I asked you a question about a Greek thing when we were first getting ready to prep for this one.
You did?
I did, yeah. It was asking you about a translation thing.
Yeah.
Because I've heard two different arguments. And I think the way that you were saying that the Greek puts forth is the way it, correct me if I'm wrong, if you remember, that the way it stresses or converts a certain word, whatever the terminology is that it was to the effect of she has been forgiven because she loves much, I think is what you were saying.
Yeah.
Which then you were kind of sharing like some of your thoughts, which kind of, I thought when you were speaking of the whole, yes, it's his grace, but also there's this other thing. It's like, I just kind of saw that. I don't know if you remember that comes to mind.
No. I vaguely. It was a couple of weeks ago. But I vaguely remember that happening. Yeah. The modifier on the word, which word was it applying to? You can tell by the case ending. And it was that, she was being forgiven because she had loved much.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is that some sense in which you seek after God. Right?
Which is what you see at the very end here. Like she's showing that love.
Right.
And then she's forgiven from that love.
And notably, Simon is not forgiven in this passage, at least not, he doesn't say he's been forgiven.
Right.
The passage. I do get a kick out of Jesus saying to him, "You have judged correctly." Like, oh yeah, you figured that one out, huh? Right? Like,
great job.
Exactly. After the Simon, I have something to say to you.
Speak, teacher.
Yeah. And then he tells the parable, and Simon answers correctly, and yeah, good job, buddy. You figured it out. And then he basically dunks on Simon in his own house, just turns and gives the explanation there. But it's like, it's just funny to me that, I don't know if you heard me kind of like chuckle a little bit.
I heard you chuckle, yeah.
He said, you judged correctly. I was like, eh.
So let me know what you kind of think of this, because I came across another person's interpretation for how to translate it based on the Greek. And they were throwing this out there. They were saying something like, it might be better, therefore, to interpret Luke 7:47 as implying one can see that her many sins are forgiven because she has loved much.
I don't see how that's different.
Well, if, for instance, you could say that if you don't include the one can see versus that in the idea of one can interpret that as saying she's forgiven because she loves versus you can see she's forgiven because she loves. So like the forgiveness comes before the loving versus one interpretation being the loving comes before the forgiving.
Well, we kind of played with that, I think, a little bit last time. I don't know if it was on or off. I think it might have been off camera.
I don't know if, yeah. I know we kind of we kind of talked something similar with the coin, whereas like you have the woman and the shepherd seeking out, but then you have in the prodigal is the one who repents, and there's the father is the one who's going on hunting, like looking for him.
Yeah, hunting
for him, looking for him,
tracking him through the woods.
Maybe. It's sun season.
Exactly.
Will hunting sons.
Yeah, no, so that's interesting to phrase it or to frame it that way, right? So it's kind of there's a weird sort of a series of events that happens, right? Because God obviously is the progenitor.
Mhm.
And so with that, you have to have forgiveness sort of as the first step, right? Because to truly love God, you have to know God. And the beginning of that knowing God is accepting Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And when you accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, in that moment, your sins are forgiven.
Yeah.
So the forgiveness does come first, but I think we talked about it. Like there's an ongoing process of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of related to sanctification in a
Right.
way. So there's that idea of the immediate moment of forgiveness. And then also, as you continue to love God, the sins that you will continue to commit because you're human and you suck, will continue to be forgiven by God, right? So the past and present sins are forgiven at the moment of salvation. And then as you are sanctified, as you continue loving God, your sins continue to be forgiven.
Yeah, I was curious what your thoughts are, especially with the Greek and thought of
Yeah.
that, because the interesting thing about the parable is in the parable, you have the forgiveness happens before. He's saying, who would
Yes.
love more? But then here you have, she's showing the love, and then he talks about he forgives her there.
Yeah.
So I was kind of curious what your thoughts were on the Greek on there, if you remembered that conversation. Or
Yeah, no, I mean, again, it was 2 weeks ago, but
yeah,
so you'd have to bear with me. But no, I think there's certainly something to that, right? Because if I'm looking at it in English, it's therefore I tell you her many sins have been forgiven. That's why she loved much, right? So they have it as forgiveness first, then the love. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Greek modified the because she loved much, right?
I think it
Because
was. I
she
think
loved
it's what you
much,
said.
she has been forgiven.
I can go pull it up for you if you want.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. But even this has the next sentence rather is, but the one who is forgiven little loves little. So you do still have the that same formula. And sorry, I meant the sentence after that. Then he said to her, your sins are forgiven. Well, she's already doing the act of love, right? So he forgives her after this act of love. Right? So you have both at play here in the passage. And it is that kind of idea of immediate forgiveness and ongoing. Thank you.
Yeah. I figured I'd ask, because I've had my thoughts on this, was like, I have a guy who actually reads Greek versus I do Hebrew. So I was like, let me just ask the guy before I actually learn Greek, who actually has an idea what's going on here.
You're going to learn Greek? You won't have any use for me then.
I'm going to at least get a basic understanding of it. Is my plan. So I can at least work through it.
I have a presentation I can send you.
I already have access to the presentation. I'm actually right now, interesting enough, while you're looking at that for the audience, I'm actually cruising through Hebrew. I actually started working on Arabic too, and Latin.
Ooh,
especially because of I wanted to be able to kind of go through the Vulgate.
Aramaic or Arabic?
Arabic. I was going to do
the Quran, huh?
I was going to do the Aramaic after I kind of got a little more of a firmer ground with Hebrew, since they're sister languages, they're so closely related. Different enough, but they're still very related. Versus Arabic is like, they don't even look at the same thing. They're completely different constructions, and it's a fun time.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, that's the correct modifier. Sorry, you have karin, which is accusative on account of, and then also agapesin, excuse me, agapesin, which is also accusative and love. So yeah. So I would not agree necessarily with how the HCSB translated it.
Sure.
But irregardless, you still have the same, because the Greek does reflect, but the one who is forgiven little loves little. Right? So you do still have the forgiveness, then love, then forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so this one's kind of fun because this one has, technically, it appears twice. You have it in Matthew and you have it in Luke. And if I remember correctly for how I marked the Luke one, well, Matthew, you have 3 characters. In Luke, you have 2 characters, but one character plays 2 parts.
Interesting.
So we'll do the Matthew one first. So that one's going to be like the more easy way to see it. So we have, this is in context of him talking about the coming of the Son of Man, in necessity of watchfulness. That we normally would read, but this is a huge long setup. It's the, for Matthew, this is the 6th mountain. This is where he's on Mount of Olives,
Gotcha.
giving all these prophecies. So there's a lot here, and there's a lot that could be talked about. Here, I'll read my notes here. Contextually, there have been discussions regarding the coming of the Son of Man. This is the 6th mountain scene in Matthew, where Jesus gives several prophecies regarding Jerusalem and several other things. The focus will be on at least 2 parables where it follows this point that there is a need to be ready for the return of the Lord. However, it may be mistakenly understood going forward that this is about 2 different kinds of people in the church. As scholars note, most immediately it is probably referring to faithful and unfaithful Jews in its most immediate context. To quote Blomberg, while the good and the bad servant originally no doubt stood for faithful and faithless Jews, with faith being defined in terms of allegiance to Jesus, there is no reason not to reapply the imagery in an evangelistic context to Christian disciples as over against all those who reject the gospel, or in an ecclesiastical setting to genuine versus spurious Christians within the membership of a local church. But we must not imagine that Jesus has 2 different kinds of Christians in view. After all, the prior verse in Matthew, it discusses those who are left behind and those who are taken away. And the ones who are left behind are the ones who are left in a positive sense, and the ones who are taken away are in a negative sense.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff contextually in the background to this one.
Yeah.
For the Matthew one, you have it talking about this coming again, and that it talks about this readiness, and you have those who are being taken away are the ones who are like they were not ready and they were taken away, versus and they're in this case. Compared to like Noah, the ones who were taken away are like those who were left in the flood. They're taken away by the waters, versus the ones who remain are on the ark. And that's how he likens it. And all this is up. So there's a sense where in the media context, it kind of seems to be talking about, in one sense, the Jews and the readiness of the Jewish people, but also about, in a broader sense, you can talk about Christians, but it's not like good Christian, bad Christian, as some might try to. Like there is within the church, there is this kind of thing, this tension. So that's a lot of background, a lot of bad context that could take a whole another 20 podcasts to go through.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get into the parable.
Yes.
We'll look at the Matthew version, and we'll go to the Luke version. And then maybe we'll add a 3rd parable afterwards, depending on how long this one takes.
Yeah.
Maybe
First one took us a half hour. So
we'll pick up with the next one next time, knowing this is the context of this one.
Yeah.
Who then is the faithful and wise slave, whom his master has put in charge of his household to give the other slaves their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master will find at work when he arrives. Truly, I tell you, he will put that one in charge of all his possessions. But if that wicked slave says to himself, my master is delayed, and he begins to beat his fellow slaves and eat and drinks with drunkards, the master of the slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he does not know, he will cut him in pieces and put him with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
For those who are trying to follow along there, Matthew 24.
Did I not say that?
No, you did not.
Oh, Matthew 24. And that's the end of Matthew 24.
Yes. Starting in verse 45.
Yeah. So the interesting there is that it could be argued. The Luke one I think is a little more clear in this direction. The Matthew one is like, it could be seen as there's a good slave and there's a bad slave, and they're being contrasted to each other. Or you could still say it's the same one slave, but it doesn't necessarily be as specific. Whereas we go to Luke. Right. Peter said, Lord, are you telling, this is in Luke 12.
There you go.
Verse 41. Peter said, Lord, are you telling this parable for us or for everyone? The Lord said, who then is the faithful and prudent manager whom his master will put in charge of his slaves to give them their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave whom his master will find at work when he arrives. Truly I tell you, he will put that one in charge of all his possessions. But if that slave says to himself, my master is delayed in coming, and he begins to beat the other slaves, men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk, the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he does not know, and it will cut him in pieces, and will put him with the unfaithful. That slave who knew what his master wanted, but did not prepare himself or do what was wanted, will receive a severe beating. But the one who did not know and did what deserved a beating will receive a light beating. From everyone to whom much has been given, much will be required, and from the one to whom much has been entrusted, even more will be demanded. So it was interesting because in that one, it's like, take this one slave. You can go about this one of two ways. Either you could be ready and be like, okay, he's going to return, or absolutely suck at this and not be ready at all. And so I'm going to jump ahead of my notes for at least next week, if we do push off the 10 bridesmaids to next week.
Sure.
It's interesting that they are two opposite kind of problems.
Mhm.
This one, for the one who is the wicked slave, or is in a position of acting as a wicked slave, he thinks the master's taken a long time, but he returns sooner than he's ready for.
Yeah.
The bridesmaids, he returns later than they thought they would. Hence the why they didn't get the extra oil, because they assumed he'd be back sooner. But it's this whole question like, when's he coming back? You're not going to know. That's not for you to know. But you always should be ready. So with what you have, be ready.
You mean he didn't return in 1874?
No. We're not Jehovah's Witnesses.
Didn't sit on the throne in 1914?
No, we're not Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I was this close. They almost had me.
But this one's also pretty simple to kind of figure out. You have the monarchic is the master, and then you have for your two subordinates, whether it be the same one character playing two roles or two different figures. Slave who is given and does much with it and is ready to go. In fact, the first that came to mind was Joseph, because it very much kind of outlines Joseph's life. He's given stuff and he's done well with it. He's given more stuff and keeps being blessed until his, the master's wife kind of lies about what was going on.
Yep.
But it's the same kind of, like, you get that very idea, which kind of reminded me, like when we were looking at last time, you were pointing at, I can't remember the exact passage, character within the Old Testament. I think it was from within the Torah as well. But it was just interesting where you have Jesus kind of like giving him a testament of what's going to happen, also the present reality, but is using like pieces of like the Torah to kind of like you should remember this, by the way. Joseph, Jacob, fill in the blank with whoever it is. It's just kind of cool. But then you also have the other one who's like, he's not returning. I'm gonna take advantage of this moment. I'm gonna do what I want with this because he's not here. He's not gonna tell me what I'm doing is wrong.
Yeah.
And even then, I'll just beat them all to the point where they don't want to tell him because they'll know I'll come back to hurt them in some way, because he'll think I did such a good job with all this.
Yeah.
So I have in my notes here. So within verses 45 through 47, this presently deals with the two figures, with the master, the servant who acts faithfully. The slave acts wisely in how he treats the property or people of his master. There is good stewardship of what is given to him. It will result in his continual giving of responsibilities. And I linked it to Joseph, where it's like Joseph is given more and more responsibilities.
Yeah, it's great that you do it, because Joseph had every opportunity and honestly almost means to treat people
awfully,
horribly,
especially given his past with his brothers.
And then when the brothers come to Egypt, and they don't recognize Joseph, he has every opportunity to just treat them maliciously and awfully.
Yeah,
just like they did him. And he didn't.
Yeah.
Right? He was faithful to God in that circumstance. That's a great connection.
Yeah.
I'm glad you made that.
And then you have with the wicked servant who seems to see this delay and therefore begins to abuse of the people, do not tend to the return of the master. It seems that he believed that the master will not return, that perhaps there is no master anymore. Because now he's acting as master.
Gotcha. Interesting.
And there is no allegiance to the master or what he has been given. So here we have a wicked servant who seems to see this delay and therefore begins to abuse of the people. I already read that. The thrust of the parable is not primarily responsibility given the follower of Jesus, but for the need of the Jews who heard Jesus to respond positively to him. The disciples must model faithful following, but they are not being castigated en masse as potentially wicked servants. And that was from one of the commentaries I found on this point. You look at the immediate audience being like the Jewish people, like if you can talk about like the second coming, all seem like even like at Jesus' coming, they weren't really ready for Messiah to show up the first time.
No, they killed him, so no.
And then there'll be a second time that he comes.
Right.
which then kind of makes us as a church kind of think like, are we going to be ready for when he returns? Whatever that looks like depending on your eschatology, we're not going to get into that today.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I don't think there is the ability to be truly ready, right? Because in order to be truly ready, you have to understand what it means for God to come back in glory. That's not something the human mind can conceive of, right? Like, think about Ezekiel chapter 1 when he sees all of this stuff and how upset he is and how much
Just
he's
like
trying to
days.
yeah, he's trying to just sit and process everything
With anger too.
with anger, right? And that's what I've said. I want to meet, if I were to meet anybody from the Bible, it would be Ezekiel before the vision and Ezekiel after the vision, and just see the difference there, because it's got to be catastrophic. um, yeah, I just think it's I don't know. There's a lot you could say there.
But I think to your kind of point and everything else that we're kind of just been saying, um, within the parable, there's the idea of being ready is being a good steward of what has been given to you. So let's take the disciples, for instance. They're going to be given a task to do. Are they going to be good stewards of that? Let's think about, we'll do like a simple one for us. One of our things that we try to steward is this ministry itself. Are we being good stewards that when the master comes back, he'll be like, great, and he gives more. Versus like given and then abusing the very thing that you have.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought. So he's given more, like you're tasked with more in heaven, right? You get to do more of the Lord's work in heaven. That's an interesting thought. I kind of like that.
If we think of it, if we think of it from the future reality of the Christian, there's that idea. But then also for like the immediate audience, like let's look at Paul, for instance.
Yes.
He's given a task. He's been a good steward of it. And he's been giving more and more to do.
Not at first, but yeah.
When he becomes a Christian.
Right. At first, he is the wicked slave, right? Who's literally beating his fellow slaves. And then, praise God, he repents.
Right. But the idea like that giving more. But anyway, like even when we look at the Luke one, which was
Luke 12.
Thank you.
It's fine.
We have here like, blessed is that slave whom his master will find at work when he arrives. Truly I tell you, he will put that one in charge of all his possessions. But if that slave says to himself, my master is delayed in coming, and if he begins to beat the other slaves, men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk, the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and an hour that he does not know will come in pieces. So there's that. Okay, we looked at the positive. You will be given more, be given much, because you're being a good steward with what God's giving you. Then there's the bad steward.
Yeah.
To be cut up and just thrown with the unfaithful.
Yeah.
Will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Of which is interesting when you kind of look at where those pull from. We kind of immediately go like, oh, that's immediately like this painful language. Gnashing of teeth, especially when it pulls from the Old Testament, is this place is like this chastisement and anger. Like it is like
wrathful.
It's not like we're in pain. It's like we're cursing out.
Yeah.
So it's all those who are cursing out against the master.
Exactly.
Are being gotten rid of.
C.S. Lewis is undefeated. The doors of hell are locked from the inside. And that's his famous quote, right? Of when asked, why doesn't God just save people from hell? C.S. Lewis remarked, well, the doors of hell are locked from the inside, right? The people who are there are choosing to be there. There isn't this chain across the front of the door that God is holding tightly. It's like they're choosing that, right? As you just said, the gnashing of teeth, they're cursing at the master. And God's like, all right, you want to stay there? You can stay there.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that is because this unfaithful servant truly does not want to do much with what was given to him.
Yeah, right. And it's interesting even further that he's thrown into this place of gnashing of teeth. That suggests that when the master returns, the slave doesn't change his ways. Right? There's this scene from the movie Left Behind.
Which one?
Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you.
There's like 2 of them, I think.
Oh, there's so many more than that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's more.
Okay, I only know of 2 at least.
There's like 6 maybe.
Oh my gosh.
I think. Irregardless, one of them, where the second coming happens and people are raptured and all that stuff, and a man tries to offer money to the priest because he's like, now he regrets it. It's like, that's not
How this works.
that's not what's going to happen. No.
No.
The slave in this parable doesn't change,
No.
right? The master returns, and rather than beg forgiveness or, just try and even run away necessarily, he just is put into the place where those who curse the master go. In other words, he cursed the master, right? Like he's cursing the master as the master is rightfully coming back to his own domicile.
He's also cut in pieces.
Yeah, right.
So he's like, he's been.
It's the Dark Knight or the Black Knight from the Holy Grail.
Wow,
your arm is off. No, it isn't.
So merely a flesh wound. But yeah, it's this idea. I wasn't my thought. I came across it, but I wrote it down. I just thought it was interesting. It seems that he believes that the master is not going to return. Perhaps there is no master.
Yeah.
Because to start treating the stuff like that, especially the property, there's a layer of which you're kind of like, okay, he's delayed. Maybe he's not coming back.
Look at me. I am the master.
But then, like, there's several times throughout history where people, for the Jews prior to the Messiah, and even in Christian history, people were like, I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah.
And therefore they cause them the doubt, and then they are awful stewards of what's been given to them.
Right.
Because they now turn away. Versus those are like, he's not back yet. He seems to be delayed. I don't understand why, but I want to be ready for when he is. I want to be a good steward of this.
Yeah. Because on that off chance he does.
Yeah.
You don't want to be caught napping. There's a couple things that come to mind there. One was there was a video where a military officer at a checkpoint was caught sleeping. And he was arrested because he's sleeping on the job, and he's the only security checkpoint. And so anybody or anything could have come through. Don't get arrested, right? Like don't be asleep at the station which God is giving you.
Oh yeah.
Because if he comes back and you've just been sitting and drinking and not even, I mean, yes, mistreating people obviously, but
yeah,
even if you're just doing nothing, right? Like I think and I don't want to get too ahead of you, when I think of the parable of the talents, right? The slave was called wicked because he just did nothing. Right? He didn't invest it. He didn't work. He didn't do anything. Slothfulness is a destructive behavior. And the wicked slave there was extremely slothful with what he was given. It's not only that he mistreated his fellow slaves, it's that he did nothing. Don't be caught doing nothing.
I think it's interesting is that I think we can kind of go here now because it's the same meaning. So the 10 virgins, we're already kind of on that topic.
Yeah.
The parable effectively goes that, okay, he compares the kingdom of heaven to this. Bridegroom is delayed or he's gone out. And there's these 10 bridesmaids. 5 of them are foolish, 5 of them are not. 5 of them have this extra oil, 5 of them do not. And that's should automatically be like, why did you not get the extra oil?
Yeah.
Because I was looking more into Jewish culture, and actually a lot of the background, including the bridegroom's delay, is very common. Bridegroom not coming back is like just a little bit of a delay to that is pretty much a standard custom in Jewish weddings. So you have them, they're both sleeping, both parties. Both are sleeping, as it says. So we'll see, as the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. So the problem right now is they're both asleep. The problem of the story is not that they're asleep with this, but the question is their readiness for this one.
Yeah.
But at midnight, there was a shout, look, here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him. Then all the bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamps. So they had to cut the cloth, dip it in the oil, so that we can catch fire. The foolish said to the wise, give us some of your oil for our lamps. Okay, so why would they be out of oil? Because they've already lit the lamps, and now they're out. They're out of the oil. So before it was the delay, and then he comes back sooner than they thought they would. Now we have the oil's gone.
Yeah.
And came back later than they anticipated. So then it says, so the fool says this to the wise, but the wise replied, no, there will not be enough for you and for us. You better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves. So go buy some, which fat chance is going to happen, especially at this time. And good luck getting back here in time. And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came into those who were ready, went with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the other bridesmaids came also, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he replied, truly I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. The first one was like, I might come back soon, do you think? I might not.
Yeah, might be later.
Just be ready. Be good stewards of what you have. Let me see. I had a note here, actually, that came to mind. Because the monarch figure is the monarch, I'm not sure it's a monarch. The monarch figure is the bridegroom. Then you have the two subordinates. Yeah. And so, let's see, where is it? So the previous two parables nope, wrong one. The most implausible detail of all this is the reaction of the bridegroom in refusing to open the door for the foolish. Regarding like cosmic, yeah. This is the most like shocking moment. It says the foolish bridesmaids and in claiming not even to know them. But at an allegorical level, these features make good sense when the story is seen as warning about the irreversible judgment that await those who have masqueraded as true people of God.
Mm.
And it's like,
wheat and tares.
A little bit right there. Or like the whole idea of just the weeds being there. Like in just because the idea is the garden is not necessarily the church, but it's just the creation, but then also devil's planting in these different ones. And we can get into that parable more when we get there. But it's like there's just ones that are there, and there will be collecting the ones that are actually the wheat, and then tossing away to burn off those that are not. And here's like, again, if we talk about the Jews, like this kind of plays a little bit into Paul's thought, I would say, a little bit, where he's talking about these Judaizers. They're acting like they really kind of figured out what a Jew is, but they miss our biggest father, which is Abraham.
Yeah.
This is what it really is, the Kickstarter to what it means to be for the covenant. Yeah, you could say Mosaic covenant came later, but it's building off of the promise that was given to Abraham. That's where circumcision starts with Abraham too. That dividing, the thing that distinguishes them from the rest of the cultures. And that's why he's like, the people who are truly more like Abraham, who are truly his descendants, are those who believe versus those who don't. And it's like those who are truly God's people, those are truly the Jews, or in this case, for us, when we think about the church, they're the ones who are ready. Those are the ones who are ready to go in. The other ones, they're not ready. They didn't do what they're supposed to. They're abusing the thing they're supposed to. It's kind of one of those things like when the bridegroom comes, it'll be very clear who actually is of this and who's of this, which is a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
Terrifying thought. But it plays into Jesus like, get away from me, I never knew you, workers of lawlessness.
That was exactly where my mind went to.
Yeah.
He'll put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of like an eschatological sequence where it's talking like there's one sense where it's like, even if you want to talk about like the present reality of the kingdom of God, if you want to talk about in that sense, the Son of Man came in that sense, and they're like, I'm dividing out who's really mine and who isn't. As Paul says, he's going to be grafting and cutting off. Mm-hmm. And if we talk about from the second coming as essence, is like, there will be those who claim to be Lord, Lord. And so you can kind of look at it from both comings a little bit, because there was a sense where they were wondering when the Son of Man is coming, and you can say that the Son of Man is doing the Daniel 7 thing of sitting on his throne right now because of that now and not yet kingdom. As it says that he goes up into the cloud and acts and he sits on the throne, and these powers are being dethroned. And there's some that are cast away and there's some that are still around for a while until they're ultimately done away with. But it's like, if you want to talk about the first coming for like the Jews, it's like, I came.
Yeah.
And I'm collecting. And then for the second coming, it's like, I will come again and it will be a final collection. So be ready.
Yeah. I mean, that's Hebrews 6 in tandem with James, let's say 4. Right? The preparatory and harvest rains. Right? The preparatory rains has happened. The harvest is coming. You don't know when, but it's coming. And that's James's point. Be on alert. Be ready.
Yeah.
He's going to come. You don't know when. I don't know when. Let that keep you awake at night.
Look at that. We squeezed in 3
There you
parables. We squeezed in the 3rd.
And you can go ahead and squeeze that subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like and leave us down in the leave it down in the comments what you thought about these parables. Right? Did you were you convicted? Because it certainly can be a very convicting set of parables, right? We can look at this a ton of different ways and come across of like, I am not doing enough.
Was like
not prepared.
You can reflect on, like I said, the immediate context, reflecting on the Jews, like, it wouldn't be here just purely for historical reason.
Yeah.
It's there to also challenge you. So if you were like, all right, even if this was meant towards them, let me think about this. And if it is like that broader to us, is like, or for us, is like, let me think about that for a second. But yeah, I mean, let us know down below too if there's things like you're catching here too. Maybe we missed something because we're trying to cram all these notes and thoughts into like an hour-ish video. So there's definitely a lot more that can be said and we haven't analyzed. So if you wanted, if things were like, hey, what about this? Let us know.
Yeah.
We might say, yeah, we thought about that. We just didn't get to it. Or like, oh, we missed that. Good point. Yeah. Let us know.
Or tell you you're a heretic. Any one of those is possible.
Yeah.
Roll the dice. Find out.
Yeah.
But with all that said, we really appreciate you watching, and God willing, we will see you in the next one. Peace.